So we have Joe Davis here from Enduris, going to talk to us about risk management and mitigation. This is always a really fun conversation, or fun. There's lots of stuff to learn. Let's say that. Joe has, so he's going to go kind of high level over a lot of different topics. And we talked about if there are topics that maybe we want to do a deeper dive on later on, that he would be willing to coordinate in all of his free time.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Kind of a deeper dive on any number of topics that we need some more information on. So Joe Davis is the Director of Risk Management and Member Relations at Enduris. He's been with Enduris since 2016, partnering with Enduris members to help with various risk and coverage consultation needs. The mission is simple: work alongside with members to help them oh my gosh, I can't read today. Work alongside with members to help them to a better place as members do work to fulfill their mission. Thank you, Jill.
Yeah.
I don't know where my head's at.
Well, thanks for having me here. I didn't know it was the last session. I mean, so everybody's left already. It's like happy hour already. And it's only 10:10 in the morning.
You're just waking up.
Yeah. So what do you guys talk about so far? I mean, I've got insurance. It's your chance to leave.
Can I interrupt for a second? I want to make sure everyone knows that it should be checked out by 11. FYI. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
More people leaving. Okay. So. Let's,
Not working now?
well, now I've got disconnected. So that's
Let me unplug it and plug it back in.
Could have something to do with.
Whenever you go to the Zoom, you have to reactivate the power.
PowerPoint may be frozen.
Okay,
This will be the power and reactivate it, there we go.
like close it down and start it again.
Just hit the button and then we should get it working out. Right now, go.
Oops,
Okay.
well, hold on, I'm not sharing. Oh my gosh. How about now?
No,
Okay, well, I'm gonna try.
can you go? Okay, so that's Enduris. You're all Enduris members. I don't have to talk a lot about what Enduris does. But we provide your coverage. These are some of the things that we're going to talk about. And state of the market. I just want to talk a couple things about that. Risk management 101, public events, volunteer programs, and we may or may not get to equipment. So that's why we were going to have a follow-up. Want to leave time for questions. And so the state of the coverage market can be kind of summed up in one emoji. It's really, really bad right now. There's reasons for that, and you can just kind of pop through these. There's a prediction of an economic recession coming up, which always shrinks money and in the investments, which includes the insurance market. There's does anybody know about inflation going on? Really about eggs, gas, natural disasters is affecting claims as well. So not only did the hurricanes come, but nothing's getting rebuilt at what it was insured for, because it costs more now to rebuild it than what they were insuring it for, and the market's getting even for that. So you just saw, or maybe you don't read the same stuff I read, right? The largest insurer in the U.S., State Farm, has pulled out of California entirely. They're just not going to do business there anymore. Why? Because of wildfire risk. And I think Allstate just sold out too. And they're just waiting for more aftermath of insurance companies saying enough. We're going to only select the elite tier risk, and the rest of you can figure out yourselves. And actually, that's how risk pool got done. So we're with you. We got your back. But things are really difficult right now. The claims with social inflation. Social inflation means cranky jurors. No insurance company wants to have a lawsuit go to court right now because 12 jurors are extremely unpredictable. So state of Washington, city of Seattle, there's been some crazy verdicts going on. Enduris is getting sued for like 50 million right now. We're not going to pay a dime on it. still have to defend it for like, I don't know, 3 years. State of Washington, our environment's interesting. It's very pro-consumer. And there's no tort caps in the state of Washington. A lot of states have tort caps and they say, hey, if you're a government entity, we're not gonna punitively bury you because you're completely funded by the public who's gonna pay for that claim anyway. So in the state of Washington, there's no tort caps. The insurers realize that and they're treating us just like California, Cook County, Illinois, New York. Washington's starting to get lumped in together with that in the insurance market now, which creates a shrinking market for government risk, because there's no governmental protections in the state of Washington. I don't get it, but it's something we advocate for, and there's no ears out there. But tort caps would immediately bring money into this market, investment, and probably reduce rates in a very fast manner. Cyber coverage, don't click, don't click that. The Amazon gift cards aren't real. And the other issue is data denial of service, which is cyber terrorism, where they flood your 911 networks, or they try to break into a dam and open up all the gates, or they find a refrigerated warehouse and try to figure out how to turn off the refrigeration, things like that. And they do it like as a badge of honor. They don't really have any skin in it. They just brag about it on the dark web. Hey, I can do this. Oh, one more automobile. Yeah. Anybody drive like this nowadays? And, so the industry is trying to manage distracted driving. So what that means for Enduris, our reinsurance rates, that's our cost of buying insurance for property is expected to increase 41%. We haven't got a quote yet. We expect to have it any day now. We're not passing that on to all of our membership. We are actually going to allocate some of that, and that's why through joint self-insurance, where it's kind of all for one for all, we're able to mass purchase and allocate. So we're only going to increase property rates about 5 to 10%. This is breaking news. We haven't sent the letter out yet. It's going to go out later this week. 2 to 5% on liability, and 2 to 10 on other lines, and that's your automobile, your crime, and your bonds. Inflation's going on. Your property is all going to increase 7.5% to try to keep pace with replacement cost values. And I want to remind again, anytime that I can, is that members with claims pay a higher rate than members without claims. It's just another way to allocate. And we work with members that have claims to try to reduce their claims frequency, and we don't have a real history or track record of kicking members out of the pool for having too many claims. We don't really have a track record of increasing rates punitively if members have too many claims. Any questions on that?
Are these commercial, or are these trends also carrying over to residential?
Yeah, residential is a whole different arena because they're so worried about wildfire and petty theft. And grab and go things, smash and grab. I don't know what's going on in personal insurance. Actually, I've been out of personal insurance too long. That's what's going on in Enduris. And I know in the commercial lines market, those rates are about half or less than half of what the market's doing right now. This was a board decision, and it probably wasn't raised enough realistically. We'll see in a year or two. but we wanted to give some of the goodness back to the members because Enduris is in the black right now, and we don't operate at profit. We don't have shareholders. We don't get dividends. We just give rate back to the members. So that's what we do. So transitioning over to risk management 101. Some of the basics. I think this is what.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I just keep doing this out of muscle memory. Risk is all around us. Risk is necessary for a lot of objectives. I'm here talking as a risk manager. there's good risk and there's bad risk. I'm not here to eliminate all risk and say, don't ever take a risk. What we're focused on, your graphic, is unnecessary risk. And those are the things we want to identify and try to figure out how to control, how to transfer, how to send it to someone else. Unnecessary risk is what we're trying to focus upon. So, and just a quick definition of risk, and this is in my own mind, risk is the uncertainty of outcomes, and the outcomes can be favorable or unfavorable, arising out of a set of circumstances. And you can apply that to anything that you do in work or in life or whatever. And risk takes the form of probability, uncertainty, varying outcomes. I mean, just all that stuff that you're like, I don't know if it's a good idea, or it's just, hold my beer and watch this. That's risk, right? I mean, and there's a Warren Buffett quote: risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. So, that's another factor. You have to be aware of what you can and can't do. And you have to have that knowledge, right? So I think that's some of the reason why we're talking today. Risk management is the preservation of your resources. And you manage it through a 5-step process that's sequential: identification, analysis, control, financing, and administration. And it's a complete circle. It just never stops. That's why I think I have a job forever. So if you can't identify risk, you can't analyze it. If you can't analyze risk, you're not going to know how to control it, et cetera. And so taking things on from an approach, you could take any circumstance or any individual future decision and just start identifying risk. And then you say, okay, let's analyze it and see what the probability of risk is here, good or bad. And let's figure out how to control the bad. And then if we can't control the bad, then how do we finance it? And Enduris is a risk financing mechanism, right? You pay us a little and we might pay out a lot. So we're a risk financing mechanism. And then risk administration is like having a vehicle policy. How many of you have a written vehicle policy? All your drivers go through every year. Wow, one person. Yes. So we can help with some of that stuff. And you should have on your written automobile policy, don't drive like this. And because you got $20 million in liability, that's a lot. You're gonna get sued forever if you get a bad accident. So is anyone here a risk manager by job title? I am, unfortunately. Nobody. Does anyone have risk management in their job description? Maybe might a little bit. Trick question. Everybody's a risk manager. Okay, all have decisions to make every day, and those decisions have outcomes, and they can affect yourself, they can affect your occupation, they can affect your employer, they can affect all kinds of different situations. And so everybody's a risk manager. See a problem, own a problem, fix the problem. Is risk management proactive or reactive? That's an open-ended question. I don't want to break the ice on that.
Well,
Should be proactive. Yeah.
Usually. I agree with that, because sometimes we have to go after.
You take over. Yeah. That's great. That's perfect. I like that answer. You can say that louder because I really like it.
It should be proactive, but it's usually reactive.
Yeah. It should be proactive, and that's how we're in the risk identification process. But when something goes terribly wrong, then it's reactive. You say, hey, how do we prevent this from happening again? We don't want to repeat history here if it's bad. So it could be, you can take that from either measure, and if you administrate, if you're operations, if you're out there in the field, track your near misses, a string of near misses and well, nothing happened. Okay, we're carry on, game on. But you got to track those near misses, and you might need extra protective equipment or fall protection or just whatever it is. You can track your near misses and prevent them from becoming a catastrophe. So basic risk tenants, don't write all this stuff down. Corey has the copy of the presentation. But I just wanted to emphasize, don't risk a little for a lot. That's a basic tenet of risk management. It's so simple, right? don't retain more than you can afford to lose. You have $20 million of liability, right? You can rack up a lot of claims. No, don't treat insurance as a substitute for risk control. That's a bad plan because you don't ever want to be in court because that can last years. And I'm gonna go over to public events and risk management real quick, because that's a lot of the consultations that Enduris does. You put the contract to us, and usually it's either me or Kathy taking a look at it. We want to be helpful and try to say, okay, let's understand some of the risk involved. So I kind of picked on the plant sale, but you guys want to talk about other risk exposures that the conservation district has real quick? You know, farm tools. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're familiar how the state of Washington, professional engineering licenses. They're by discipline.
Okay, like an engineer stamp or something.
No, it's, one would be civil, one would be structural. So you can, the state of Washington, basically, the way they regulate it is you can only practice in the area that you're licensed.
Stay in your lane.
So we don't do that. We overlap into areas. We do NRCS, structure. I'm not a structural engineer, I'm a civil engineer. So that is a risk that, we're taking on because we're operating contrary to the way the state regulates issuing professional engineering licenses.
Okay, so in situations like that, which is over my head, I'm not an engineer, that's why I'm in insurance. I didn't go to school on that. I wasn't good at
That's
math.
why I'm wondering, how does, I've never done that before. I've worked primarily in consulting. And we hire structural engineers, we hire them to get technical.
Yeah, okay, so you go outside,
We hire people that specialize in that field.
okay, thank you, I misunderstood what you were
Therefore,
talking about.
Because you have engineers that are PDs, that are geotech. You have structural, you have fluid. So in the consulting world, you hire someone that does that every day.
Yeah, and that's what Warren Buffett quote said, hey,
Exactly.
risk is
That's the
not,
same, and you don't, and that's how
What you
you
don't know.
minimize, that's how you minimize risk.
so when you risk, that's a risk transfer mechanism, and how many of you deal with contracts regularly? A lot of you do. So Enduris can partner with some of that. As you're scripting a contract, we can help with the indemnification or the forms that you should be looking for, certificates of insurance collection, things like that. A lot of contracts, that should be a risk transfer mechanism. You're either the receiver or the giver on that risk transfer. It just depends on who's the operational risk. So who's got the money.
Yeah, just one of the ones I deal with is like largely debris installation projects, rivers.
Yeah. So what can go wrong there? Like the,
River recreational impacts, there's construction liability, a lot of that is in the contract. I think what I'm most concerned about is how to manage the liability from river recreation that could interact with a project.
okay, while a project is active.
Where you're adding large wood into rivers to restore it. And so in a sense, you're adding risk into the system that has natural risk. But where river or where wood has been removed historically to remove risk to users.
So one benefit might cause a hazard in a different,
Yeah, it's got all these benefits, but it innately creates a potential.
so there's some recreational immunity that landowners, private landowners get to enjoy.
Yeah.
And but you're talking about a river, so I'm not sure if there's a landowner of a river, it's probably an easement or something like that.
The DNR owns the river, so they have it.
Well, DNR always wins, so yeah, you got
But
it.
then it's like, whether the community would blame the project sponsor.
Okay, so like, not in my backyard type of a situation.
Yeah, or, you know, God forbid someone
Changing our landscape.
injured on. something.
Yeah, and that could be a products issue, that could be insurable, you would transfer that to the contractor that's actually doing the, you know, shovel project. And that's where I think, good to have your contract reviewed every once in a while as you're working downstream with the contractor, because the insurance on those, projects are extremely complicated. The insurance forms are extremely complicated. You know, if I was an expert at contractor insurance forms, I wouldn't be doing this. You know, there's more money in insuring contractors, so, but more risk too. And what you're trying to do is transfer that risk. You have the grants, right? And you can oversee a project, or are you doing the design that
We've got
Mike's talking
all
about?
kind of engineers that, you know, that stamp it and that cover us. We do the, you know, permitting that you have to have a certain site distance for any structures that go in. We're not doing things that block the channel. So there's a lot of things that we go into it.
Yeah.
Where we can figure out on. I think I'm just worried about a long-term risk potential of. Now the wood comes down, gets hung up on the structure that was safe, but then creates a dangerous situation because of natural accumulation.
Yeah, we can consult on some of those things. I'm gonna bring out my cards, but,
I got a note that.
yeah, because it's gonna be DNR to the conservation district, to the contractors, and there's gonna be some order there, and you wanna be free from that project at some point on
Yes.
completion. You wanna be free from it, so you're not accepting risk for forever. Yeah, and contractors go bankrupt. Contractors change insurance companies, and you don't want to track that for an endless period of time either. So yeah, that's something we can consult on, because there's a lot of conservation projects going on right now, for sure. So I just kind of threw in a lot of risk. That was kind of in my mind. You know, you got public events and all kinds of educational programs, which was a project with private landowners. You got volunteer workers, equipment rental, you got your structures and contents and equipment and lots of contracts, talk about that. People, there's people risk too, and whether it's your staff or whether it's public. Automobiles again, I mean, think of other things, I mean, it can be an endless list.
Operating equipment.
Yeah, you guys have that. Equipment program and, got a lot of conservation districts that lease equipment too, that like the gentleman farmer or.
Yeah, we usually take our stuff out to them, but staff are contemplating them picking it up, and I'm like, what is the added risk to us letting them take it and be on the road with the trailer, whether they can drive the trailer or not? Our staff has been trained up to drive the trailer appropriately.
Yeah, that's, of course, it's better to deliver if you have the expertise
Right,
in that.
Takes a bunch of time
Time-consuming.
of their day to do it. so-
Yeah, and I think having a watertight waiver, you know, and with their responsibility factors in there, you know, it's like, hey, when you're backing up and you jack up the equipment, you know.
The equipment are
You're the
really
retribution.
because you don't realize that it's a little longer than you thought or whatever, you know, yeah.
Yeah, training partners, yeah, all that stuff. That'd be good at ruining equipment. I've got some equipment rail slides that'll be in this, as well, so, you know, you get an offsite event, like a plant sale or a special event, at a park. They're gonna require a reservation. Reservation is gonna have a contract. And so you get a contract. Your next step is to sign the contract and get it back, right? But we don't want you to do that. We want you to have eyes on it. We want to know, and you want to know what your responsibilities and obligations are in the contract. And what I'm really interested in is what the insurance requirements are, because we need to provide a certificate of liability to you. We cover you, so that's not gonna be a big deal, but when you start working in collaboration with others is when we gotta do some thinking.
Mhm.
And then I won't get too much into indemnity in this, because it's kind of a deeper topic, but usually if you're signing a contract to use somebody's property, you're the indemnitor. That means, say if something goes wrong, we're gonna buy it. But you might not be in operational control of everything going on. Does anyone have an activity that they do off-site that's in collaboration with like a city or another local government or?
Ours is with a local government, for our plant sale, we have, this year we had it in Ferndale at a property owned by the city. So we were able to do it, but we had a bunch of partner groups setting up tents and doing their stuff too. So we had our plants, we had a few vendors, and we had a few, like, the county had a couple educational booths, and there was some fish and wildlife booths, and a few other things. So it was a bunch of people. We get our plant sale people to sign that they're gonna sue anybody if they trip and fall. But I don't know what we do for the partners necessarily.
Yeah, and it can really vary because some of those will be organized companies and like if they want a vendor, but others might just be craft people or just, you know, local like plant vendors, something like that. And, you know, you can collaborate with these folks, but have a sign up sheet and, you know, you guys got that fine print in there and it's their job to have their eyes and they gotta have their insurance proven to you with a waiver. And that's what we would care to see when you have all those invitees, because if there's vendors, if there's co-sponsors, you always need to ask yourself, well, what am I in operational control of and what are others in operational control of? Because somebody might bring out an extension cord and you don't know it, and they gotta run it 200 feet to power because you're in a park. And it could be, A, a fire hazard, B, a tripping hazard, and do you want to be in operational control of that vendor or somebody that's not you putting something out that's unexpected and causes, you know, somebody to trip and fall? And you know, ambulance rides are cheap now either, talking about insurance. So always ask when you're running an operation that invites the public, am I in operational control of what's going on? And what am I not in operational control of? And how am I going to control that risk? If it's a vendor, have a sign-up sheet. I mean, it's that simple. You don't have to script a contract for every single one in a different manner, but have a sign-up sheet with a little fine print on the bottom. Hey, you're going to waive any claims. You're going to hold us harmless. You're going to agree to provide us proof of insurance. Name us as additional insurance. Yeah, we can consult more on that, go deeper. But are there vendors? Who is responsible for the vendors? The vendors should be responsible for their own actions. If you have a food poisoning incident, you don't want to be liable for that. But guess what? The stuff you're signing is going to say you're responsible for that because you're going to be in a two-party agreement with the city or with the park district or with the building owner to run your event. And it's going to say, hey, you shall defend, and you're in charge of all claims or any activity. And this is a county contract that I read recently, and I look at this stuff all the time. I mean, this isn't like naming and shaming. This is how contracts are written. We want you to write your contracts that way too. But if you're signing this contract, you're agreeing to defend the county, and the county's upstream. They got a lot of money and lawyers for any claim or any loss. Any negligence, any other loss or claims, I don't know what other means, but you're still paying for it. And that's the point for any act caused by or done by any patron, which I thought, oh, that was kind of unique, you know, now they want you to be liable for just people to show up. You know, so I'm not telling you to get waivers for every individual. But you can control the vendors. If they want to come and trade their wares, they're motivated to make a little pocket money that day. And then you can script a contract. But if you're contracting with the park or the city or the county, just realize that you're agreeing to defend no matter what happens. So if the vendor burns down the county's pavilion or whatever, The county isn't gonna go to them, they're gonna put that contract we signed in front of you, and say, how are you gonna pay for that, cash or check? We want-
Yeah,
we
the
want
other
it.
weird thing was that, like a week before the event, we find out that they were having something like literally across the parking lot, the same parking area of another event, of like Cherry Blossom, whatever festival,
Oh, yeah.
which we were unaware of. We thought we had the park, or we thought it was like further away or whatever, but it was like right next to us. It kind of muddied
Oh,
with
yeah.
us and with them. We got a lot of spillover from their people, but again, we have added liability that we're like, "Oh, you're not part of them."
Gosh, that reminds me of one that crossed over that had to do with you know, our member was doing a Renaissance fair, which was kind of out of the box, there was a library.
Yeah.
And they were using a city park and then next door was the rodeo grounds and they thought, oh, people, let's use our liquor license and have a beer garden. And we're agreeing to indemnify and all that stuff, and now we have liquor liability, we're like, I don't know, you better make sure that they have insurance and that they're approving it and all that, stuff. You know, because I mean, it would be really cool to have a beer garden, although it was argued within our circles that they should have been serving something else other than beer and Renaissance fair. Somebody said mead, but you could be responsible for those things if bad things happen. So just think about it, and we're here to partner with you to talk about risk. We're not here to tell you, don't do that. But I might ask an open-ended question sometimes, like, okay, so what's the benefit of this? And why do you wanna cover this? Let's talk about why this is a good idea. And you know, we can work through it. We can definitely work through it. We got your back on a lot of things, but we don't cover third parties, so vendors need to have their own insurance. And then get the things that you're used to asking for, certificate of liability, we talked about that a little bit, so, you know, I didn't get your name, I'm sorry. Anthony, okay, Anthony talked about it a little bit, certificate of liability, general liability, name the district as additional insured. Make sure the endorsement's included, you get a one-page certificate, read the top, it says, this infers no coverage unless you get the endorsement. So make sure you get more than one page on a certificate of insurance, including the endorsement, or it's not gonna work. Any questions? We could cover that topic for a while, right? About 10 minutes left, is that sound okay, Corey? Yep. Volunteers, I want to hit a couple of important parts about volunteer workers. I get questions a lot about volunteer programs and expanding outreach and things like that. Enduris covers the member and their volunteers for liability. Liability includes while acting under the scope and duty of the member. So if they're your volunteers, you can be responsible for them, and Enduris got your back. Liability provides coverage for acts of negligence causing damages to a third party, and that's defined by law as fortuitous conduct, say that. That's bodily injury and property damage. So if the volunteer damages a third party's property, the district may be deemed negligent and responsible for the damage, and we got your back. It's your volunteers. Any questions on that?
We have to have, obviously, we would recommend your volunteers sign some kind of paperwork so that you can document what they're doing, where they're at, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, screen.
Sign into the event if you're doing a planting or something, so that if they accidentally dynamite the stream while they're doing, you know.
Yeah, awesome. A great example. Yeah. Make sure you're aware of when you're collecting volunteers, that you're getting them to sign up, that you're vetting your volunteers in some fashion, depending on what the risk is. Again, you know, if they're using dynamite, I really hope that, you know, all the regulations and rules are followed. A lot of times, but if it's just like helping at the cashier counter, you know, for the volunteering for the plant sale, then you want to make sure that they weren't ever, you know, caught for embezzlement or something.
Yeah.
Or get 3 people to vouch for their character. but, I get asked a lot, what if the volunteer gets hurt? Anyone know the answer to that one? Subscribe to LNI. There's, maybe not all of you administrate the LNI policy at your district. But LNI has a volunteer worker checkbox, and all you gotta do is check the box and you're automatically covered for a certain number of volunteer hours. That should cover most districts. The cost of it is very minimal compared to your regular LNI because there's no income continuation like an employee needs if they're out of work. I said please here, that was really nice, but LNI, if you call them, they'll tell you that's a law.
Yeah.
And I really actually didn't know that until like a member came back to me and they said, yeah, here's what LNI told me. That all local government and districts and counties and cities, they must cover their, so go on to LNI, I mean, and then type in the search box volunteer worker. And you'll just see the details on that. Because that's called second party coverage. The previous page I was talking about third party coverage, that's damage to others' property. Second party is damage to yourself. A worker, a volunteer gets injured. LNI provides the medical coverage when the worker is injured or while on duty. It doesn't cover, it doesn't matter if it's volunteer or employee. Enduris does not provide industrial insurance. Washington industrial insurance is provided by labor and industry.
So if we're doing a joint event, like with the local salmon enhancement association, it's planting that they always do, but we're like telling everybody, hey, come out to this great planting, it's, Earth Day or whatever that. Would you suggest that we get them to sign up for us so that we're covered, or you figure we'll make NCB responsible?
Yeah, let's see, that's risk identification right there, and now you gotta control it. So, great question, because you'll get volunteer groups like an association or nonprofit, something like that says, hey, we want to come alongside with you on this project and help, we got hands. And then you just need to distinguish, do we want to be responsible for them, or do we want them to be responsible for themselves? And Enduris has a contract for you either way, okay? So we have a contract for signing up your volunteer workers. And we have a contract for volunteer programs that want to come alongside with you, but you want that association to cover their own liability. They selected their volunteers, you didn't select the volunteers.
Usually it's a call to the community, hey, everybody, we're having a planting, 100 people come on out because they love the Salmon Enhancement Association.
Okay.
So they all come out and we're like just there because it's a big event, whether it's on a particular watershed that we're targeting, or whether it's Earth Day or whatever, so we kind of join with them. But we advertise it also to our people, so it's kind of like, is it their event, is it our event, is it both of our events, in which case, what is our liability?
Yeah, let's figure out a way to take the gray out and make it more black and white. Because you could go either way, whatever you accept is risk. And I like to say the entity that's in control of the operations, the one doing all the directing and supervising and selecting and the vetting and things like, they should be the ones accepting the risk and taking responsibility.
Okay.
It might be a shoulder to shoulder project, and you'll say, hey, we'll take care of our volunteers and you association take care of yours, and we'll exchange proof of coverage, and we just want to make sure that your volunteer workers are covered under LNI also, just like we do.
Yeah.
And so when somebody, spikes their foot with a shovel or steps on a rake, whatever, we got that covered. But it's through LNI again. Yeah, we had a terrible incident happen. I don't know if I talked about that last year where teenager's eye got poked out in the volunteer program, and big old gash here, and the district didn't have L&I coverage for volunteers, and, you know, then you get OSHA showing up with their clipboard, and there's, you know, potential trouble there. I don't know how the outcome was. We paid $75,000 just in some legal defense and things like, but we couldn't take it perpetually because we don't provide that, second party coverage, and all they needed to do was have a medical, and everything would have been taken care of. Yes.
So you talk about the operational entity, whoever's, you know, in charge of putting on whatever that is happening, whether it's a public event or something else, some construction project. What about as a funder of the operational entity, like how, you know, how much should we be following up to make sure that like everything's covered?
Yeah, so you'd be the upper party with the funds. And I see that with conservation districts a lot. Are you involved in the operations at all, or are you just funding
We're
a
the
project?
state. I'm with the Conservation Commission.
Pardon?
I'm with the Conservation Commission, so we're the funding entity for a lot of the.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
projects that the districts are doing and.
Yeah. So the commission would have some kind of a contract with the district saying, hey, you know, follow these steps and you get this reimbursement or this funding. And the commission probably doesn't want to be liable to the district. State doesn't like that much because they have a $10 million deductible. So the district will be responsible. And we can accept that because the district's accepting operational risk because they're motivated. They get some money and they get to do a project, you know, that fulfills their mission. So they're in operational control until they hire a contractor, you know, to do the design build. So then the district wants to sign up with the engineer or the architect. And the architect's gonna hand you a contract that's like endless pages, and it's all loaded up, and I hate reading those too. Send them to me anyway, and if I'm in a good mood, I'll help you. Those are terrible contracts, the AIA documents. But they're really lawyered up, and if the engineer hands it to you, the engineer is motivated to protect the engineer. So it might be written skewed against you, and I've had that happen in a bad way with districts that don't run their stuff by us, and I'll be glad to consult a little bit on it. It's not gonna be legal advice, those are super legal documents, but I can help you with a little bit. But it's just kind of a top-down order, commission, state to district. District might be in operational control. Maybe you have all the hands and feet to get the project done, but that's not always the case for conservation districts. You're always looking for partners. You know, you're looking for a land partner, you're looking for a contractor, and then you gotta buy parts and pieces that need to be installed, and you're not doing the installation. Somebody, you know, an installation contractor doing those things. So you might have a general contractor who's gonna be in charge of everything, or you might be having to manage a contract part by part, and manage a project contract by contract. And then you gotta chase down all those certificates from each party, make the contractor in charge of the project, including any subs they bring on. I can help with some of that. I got some documents that can help with that. I can break it down a little bit. Yeah, it's complicated, contractors coverage, so I think we're about out of time. So sorry, we couldn't get through it all, but it's about 11 o'clock. Well, 10 to 11, right? So
Yeah.
I'll stick around if there's anything you want to talk about. Is everybody leaving today?
Yeah. So we'll do a follow-up survey for the conference, and so if there are topics that you want more information on, a deeper dive, put those in the survey result, or put them in the, you know, use a QR code on the door to suggest potential other conference ideas, future sessions, and then we can see if we can get one maybe outside of the Wade conference with you in the future.
Yeah, we could do that. And just give us a call to consult, and I can help, Kathy can help, Mitch can help. Just depending on the level of authority or care, we'll get her done for you and help you through your projects and your contracts. And we got your back, and we cover every conservation district in the state. We really appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.